Friends, hello. Welcome to The Healing Artist. I am your host, Frida, and I am so excited today to have my beloved friend, Michelle Walters, with us. She is an imagination advocate and helps organizations and individuals with their message, mindset, and momentum. Michelle is a marketing coach, clinical hypnotherapist, speaker, and author. She is the winner of Oakland Magazine's Best of Oakland, Best Professional Business Coach of the Year 2024. Michelle is an award-winning and best-selling author of two books, In Alignment of Spirit, Finding Work You Love, and The ABCs of Conscious Leadership. I am so excited to have you with us today, Michelle. Yay!
Yay! Thank you for having me on your show, Frida. I'm delighted to be here.
Yay! So Michelle is the amazing woman that I keep talking about, who is the leader of the Magnetic Marketing Collective that I have joined. So, um, my listeners, Michelle, have heard me like talk about this. It's like, okay, I'm doing my work. I'm learning how to do this. Like, so, thank
I
you for
am so
coming.
proud of you, Frida. You are starting off as a novice into a great big world, and it's a wonderful world, and I'm excited for you to step into it.
Yeah, the notion of being a small business owner and all of the things that it entails, it is a new way of thinking and something that is just the unknown frontier. But thankfully, there's people like you that can guide me along the way.
Absolutely. Happy to help.
So tell me, what is your career like? Because you've had a bunch of different.
Well, it's funny because, in some ways I think people would could look at my work history and go, like, what? How does this fit together? But to me it all seems so perfectly natural. um i i grew up, went to college, got a job in business consulting, decided to go and get an MBA. After I got my MBA, I chose to work in marketing, which this was 1997, so that quickly spawned into digital marketing, which of course
Mm.
has changed rapidly over the last 25 years. And and that was a good place for me to be. I think it was a good place for me to be because it leans into a couple of my core strengths, like strengths I've had for a long time. I'm a very creative person, and
Mhm.
I am a very persuasive person, and I am good at being able to focus and help others. And so, whether that was working in the world of figuring out how to be persuasive with Clorox's cleaning products, or figuring out how to be creative, talking about Schwab's investment opportunities, I could go from that kind of work into a different kind of work, which, for a lot of people is just kind of weird, but to me was like, ooh, this is just cool. Um, I, I I literally read a book called A Hypnotist Love Story.
And when
I
was that?
I
When?
read that book in probably 2018,
Okay.
2019.
Okay.
Yeah, just before the pandemic. And I read this book, and it was by one of my favorite authors. And I was like, oh my God, I could do that. And I don't, that's just kind of how it happened. And I had worked with someone who was a hypnotherapist, although I didn't really think about our work as hypnotherapy. I really thought about it more as kind of teaching me about spirituality and metaphysics and that kind of a thing. But it was a little, I don't know, it's kind of on the edge of that stuff and
Mhm.
hypnotherapy work. Anyway, so I Googled it. I found a school nearby. I went on the weekends and I got this certificate in hypnotherapy. So this was all going on kind of just before the pandemic.
Okay. And you were still
And
working at
and
that
I'm still
time.
working,
Mhm.
well, and working kind of in these on and off assignments. So um I would typically get hired for a proper long time full time job, and then like something would happen. So the business would get sold, the client would get promoted, the purchasing people would decide that we were too expensive, like whatever would happen. So my jobs were sort of constantly turning over. Now, other people have said, oh, maybe that's your Gemini moon, which I don't really know anything about this, but like maybe you're just a person who goes through a lot of change, right?
Okay.
Um, so so I had the certificate and I'd been working in digital marketing, and then during the pandemic, like so many other people, my life just kind of
Yes.
like changed. So I'd sold my house in Alameda and moved to the suburbs. My partner, who I was deeply, deeply in love with, had been diagnosed prior to the pandemic with a terrible blood disease. And then during the pandemic, he had a stroke and started suffering seizures and kidney failure. So he passed away, not really due to the pandemic, but timing wise.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it was really hard. My kid was growing up and had COVID high school and, his own set of issues going on. And I like came to look at things, and I guess it was like January 2022. And I was like, well, if I'm ever going to do this, this is the time.
So the
And
piling on was like the catalyst for change. It was like,
yeah, I was like, the universe is sort of saying, like, this is the time to remix the ingredients, you
yeah.
know? And so I did. I started seeing clients and rented an office and marketing myself, speaking, networking, all the things, and bringing in clients to work with. Um, and that's kind of how the hypnosis business was born.
Mm-hmm.
A few months ago, I decided that I think I needed a break from marketing, honestly, or break from helping others or doing marketing kind of things. And so I had that break. And then earlier this year, 2025, I was like, I know a lot here. I can help a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And why not? Um, so I have kind of dived back into doing marketing work. That's what spawned the group that you're in, my Magnetic Marketing Collective. And now that's branching out into some other marketing deliverables for folks and maybe some new products. Like I got like most solopreneurs, I got more ideas and things than I can possibly bring to market
Yes.
and that kind of thing. But there's more action here and there's more to come. Let's put it that way.
So you noticed there was sort of like, I'm not sure if the word is a hole in the market, but there was a desire for helping people like me that have no marketing experience and have this woo-woo business. And it's like, okay, I can do all of these things in the multisensory world. How do I meet people to do things in the multisensory world with them? So then you were like,
Well,
okay,
it's just it's
what
not
if I
your
just that?
background, right?
It's not,
It's not your
yeah,
background in training. You
right.
didn't you've done artistry and illustration and
Yeah.
other kinds of things and don't have the same perspective,
Hmm.
approach, experience
Right.
to do some of these other things and to do them well and effectively and that kind of a thing. And so yes, I have a few people who are kind of on the wooish edge of businesses in my Magnetic Marketing Collective, but I got some other people in some very traditional businesses.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. There's someone in there that's doing like pickleball clinics, which is so cool.
yes,
Like,
yes, yes. I have a woman who's got multiple businesses, including a pickleball clinic.
which I just love.
Um,
It's like, yeah, well, how would you advertise that to people? How do people find?
well, and she is I don't know if you picked this up, but she's probably the least digital
Yes.
marketer of the group.
Yes.
So Magnetic Marketing Collective needs to span a range of folks who are both highly digital savvy to people who are promoting their business in very classical, bring it up in front of people kind of
Right,
ways.
like a mailer in the mail or a flyer on the local board.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. Something I've noticed that you're really, really good at, like a gift that you have, is helping us distill down what it is we're trying to share. So we can like throw a whole bunch of stuff at the wall at you, and you're like, oh, so you mean this, and then you frame it up in a sentence.
I am good at that.
Yeah, so
Is
that
the skill set I have. Yeah. Yeah.
as you can
I
tell.
am I am good at, and I think that's part of what makes me good in my hypnotherapy work too.
Hmm.
I'm good at sort of taking quite a bit of information and distilling it to, one or two ideas.
Right.
And then I've got to check them, somebody's just talked to me for 5 minutes and I said, "So you mean this?" Like maybe my one sentence doesn't really incorporate the 5 minutes of what they've been talking about, right?
Hmm.
But the I think a lot of it comes down to I love learning how people think. This is what I
Hmm.
love, learning how people think.
And that
And
really comes across too because you're patient. You're patient as heck. You'll just sit there and listen, and then here comes the distilled down.
well, I like to think I'm patient. There is a limit.
Oh, but that's the good part of the patience because there's patience that you can step all over, and then there's patience with boundaries,
Yeah.
which is the patience that you have, which is the patience I appreciate.
Yeah. Well, and actually most people do, right? Most people actually do appreciate a certain degree of boundaries.
Oh,
Because you don't
100%.
get anything done if you don't have boundaries
Yes,
about
that's
stuff,
right.
right? Like it's
Yeah.
just you just kind of move into like the quicksand or the quagmire and nothing really happens. So you got to be able to kind of figure out how to move things along. But I just love learning how people think and then what people do about what they think. And that's a big part of the reason why I love marketing and I love hypnotherapy. They're I just did an episode. I have a podcast too. My podcast is called Mind Power Meets Mystic. And this week's episode of Mind Power Meets Mystic is me talking about the similarities and differences between marketing and hypnotherapy. And
Mm.
there are important differences. Like I'm going to acknowledge them. They are important differences. But there are some big similarities. Like they
Mm.
both work on the subconscious typically, right? They're both creative and persuasive. They're both using the power of suggestion.
Hmm.
Um, the most obvious one is that, marketing, you're kind of catching people by surprise. You're not necessarily being outright like, "Hey, I'm trying to persuade you to consider my product," right?
Hmm.
Whereas in hypnotherapy, somebody's like, "Hey, I got a problem with this. Tell me what to do."
Right,
Like
right.
so that's the biggest difference. But these two skill sets of mine, like I said, they feel completely natural to come
Yeah,
out of
yeah.
me.
Yeah, I love that. Something that I would share is just from the time, and we've only spent 3 weeks together at this
That's right.
point so far, because the Magnetic Marketer Collective is brand new, if you want to get on board with this. Um,
And taking new members.
yes, yeah, we have a more formal invitation here coming up. But something I would share is just hanging out in your frequency and changing the way that I think about things. Something you're really into and have shared with me is all about networking. And this
Yeah.
is something that had, quite frankly, never occurred to me before. So I just took a small break and I went on a little camping adventure by myself, a little solo trip. And I'm out there camping, and my neighbor next to me ultimately said, "Hey, would you like to have a glass of wine with me?" And I was like, "Oh no, I'm cool, I'm sober." But we ended up having a little bit of a chat together. And he said, "So what do you do?" At which point, in the past, I wouldn't have really shared necessarily what I did. But here's Michelle Walters hanging out right here, and I was just like, "Well, I am an energy healer, and this is what I meant. Da, da, da." And I sort of
Good
shared
for you.
exactly where I am. And you know what he said? "I
What?
want to do that." And I said, and then I was like stunned. I was sort of just like, oh. So I said, "Tell you what, if you still are interested in the morning when you wake up tomorrow, when you're sober, because I only work with people, do the energy healing when they haven't had something to drink or
Well, that makes perfect sense.
yes, because you're shifting somebody's perspective. You really want them to be embodied and there with you, and like, yeah, we're not gonna do it while drinking.
No,
Yeah.
not
So,
advised.
no, it's the same with the hypnotherapy. You're not sneaking in to do it.
No.
Um, so the next morning he came over with his cup of coffee and he's like, "You still on for the energy healing?" Oh my God, it totally worked. So I'm 198 an hour. He paid me. This paid my entire camping trip that I took this little vacation to go away. And I was just like, Thank you, Michelle Walters.
What a magnificent story, Frida. The power of networking and the
Right.
power of saying, putting it out there to the universe to say, this is who I am and this is what I want.
Yes.
And if I was having this conversation with a prospective client this morning, like if people don't know who you are, what you do, how do you think they're going to get better or invest in your services? It won't happen. I mean, a couple of times in my life, I've had sort of weird little magic things happen. Like once I had a truck that was purchased for a family member that wound up moving out, and basically I needed to sell this truck. But the truck didn't really run. And so it was parked in an alley behind my house. And I was like, how the heck am I going to get rid of this truck? I don't know what to do. And then one day I'm out in the alley before going to work, and somebody walks down the alley. Well, it was a man named Terry. I know this because he had like a mechanic shirt on and one of those little oval things on it that said Terry.
Yes.
So Terry walked down the alley, and he said, "Hey, is your truck for sale?" And I was like, "Well, yes, it is, Terry. Let's do a deal." But for the most part, this is the exception to the rule. People do not
Yes.
usually ask you questions that will enable the sale of a useless truck or that kind of a thing. Usually you
Yes.
need to like put it out there for them.
So,
And I mean, I would say that all this was meant to happen, Frida.
mhm.
And
Yes.
now you have another advocate. That
Yes.
is fantastic.
Yes. And there is something though, because I have shifted, I've noticed within my own self, I have made a shift where I am thinking about this differently. There's an opening for it. Whereas before I felt like very closed off. And it's like I was really thinking that everything was going to be word of mouth. You help one people and then they go out there and spread the word. And, it's like, oh, it's okay. It's safe. I'm safe to show up and say, well, this is what I do. Would you like that? Here's my card. Or like that, the idea of that, it
And
just,
some say yes and some
yeah.
say what?
And
But
that's
you know what?
okay. Hmm.
It's okay.
Yeah. Nobody's dying when they say no to your offer. Like, no one's
No,
actually.
no. And keep in mind that what they're saying is that's not the right thing for me today, right now. This when that question comes up, it's always a question of sort of in this particular moment.
Hmm.
And, a year from now, they may run into you again and be like, "Wait, what were you talking about?
Right.
Now I have new interest in this."
Like a little seed gets planted and then it's like, so,
Absolutely.
right,
I
like
mean, this is
maybe you're
seeds.
interested
Seeds and
later.
thinking is kind of the
Hmm.
root of a lot of the work that I do in hypnotherapy. I mean,
Yeah.
it is not every client, but it is a large proportion of clients that are coming to me because something is out of whack, often because of an experience from childhood.
Right.
And, in childhood, they were told they weren't good enough, or they decided that they would never be a public speaker, or they started biting their nails or pulling their hair or whatever. And, or their parents gave them a fear of driving, so they could never get a driver's license. I mean, I've had all of these sort of things come up with clients. And the good news is that most of the time, most of my clients fix their problems.
Right.
And people will sort of, I mean, I'm a science fan. I majored in science. Like
Hmm.
people will say, like, how can you believe in science and do all of this stuff? And I'm like, I don't know, because I'm more focused on results
Mm.
than on getting hung up on understanding all of the details of
Exactly how it works.
the exactly how it works. So I'm fascinated because, we used to, people have been using hypnotherapy for thousands of years, but nobody really had any idea what was going on or how it worked. People would
Hmm.
sort of call it magic or classify it like ghosts. Like we don't know how that energy is. We don't have an explanation for it,
Kind of
right?
think about it about getting out of our own way, like sort of like
Well, and
taking the
here's
brain
the
and
thing. Here's the thing is that so now um we have put people in a state of hypnosis in an MRI machine. And what happens is that we can see that certain parts of the brain dial down. And they are exactly the parts of your brain that are the getting out of your own way.
yeah.
And so when you get out of your own way, and then you focus on believing inch by inch, what is it you need to do to get over something, you can typically get over it. So, if somebody comes to me and says, "Oh, I want to lose 50 pounds." And I say, "Well, how much?" "Okay, you want to lose 50 pounds. How much do you think you can lose?" They say, 10. "Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Well, then we're going to lose 10 pounds. And after
And
you've
then,
lost 10 pounds, we're going to lose 10 more, and then
yeah,
10
shift
more, and
that.
then 10
Yeah.
more. Right.
Yes.
And so, you don't try to do the things that your brain says, "No, I couldn't do that." You try to do the things that your brain says, "Yeah, I could do that." And then you build on that skill set. And I guess maybe I take that approach into the marketing community too. It's like,
Hmm.
look, you're never going to learn it all. You're never
Right.
going to have it all mastered.
Yeah.
It changes all the time. But can you build a little bit, a little bit, a little bit, a little bit so that those things start accumulating and you start having a clearer presence, a clearer message, being more
Hmm.
confident to talk to the guy in the campground, to do these kinds of things? Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. That was one of the first lessons we were learning. It's like if there's 100 pans, which pans are you going to pick up and put in the fire? What are you focusing on? Where are the places? How are you sharing with the world? Yeah.
Right. And a small business, all people, I've been reflecting on this a little bit this week. Like the great equalizer of our world is time.
Mm.
You have 24 hours a day, I have 24 hours in a day. Um, and some people will sort of turn that into the attention economy. Where are people putting
Mm.
their attention? And I think there is truth to that, right?
Mhm.
You cannot that we love this idea that, young lady, you can have it all. You can have a house and a kid and a job and a this and a that, but you might not really be able to have it all at the same time,
Mhm.
right? Like it might need to spread out over multiple years or decades or whatever.
Right.
And I think that's important. But where you put your energy, your attention and your focus, that's what tends to change,
Yes.
you
Yeah.
know? So it's not rocket science, but it is something that is easily forgotten.
Right. Right. If people were interested in learning more about hypnotherapy, tell us about Nourish and Flourish.
Yes. So once a month, I have an event I call Nourish and Flourish. I call it that because it's at lunch, my time, California, on a Friday. And what I do in my group with Nourish and Flourish is spend a few minutes talking about sort of me and my services, what is hypnotherapy. And then I spend the next half hour or so leading the group in an online hypnosis for something that pertains to kind of everybody. So it might be creativity, it might be letting go, it might be stress management. Um, I mix it up so that, when you come, you might hear something you've heard before, but you won't hear the same thing April, May, June.
Mhm. And I
And
love
it's a
Nourish and Flourish.
Nourish and Flourish is
Yeah.
great.
I've been to like maybe 8 of them or something
Yeah,
and
you've been
over
to
the
many
years
of
and
them.
yeah, and I love them. It's like taking a nap at lunchtime. It's so good.
It's on a Friday, so a
Yeah.
lot of times people feel more focused for Friday afternoon after Nourish and Flourish, or they kind of like the weekend's already kind of
Hmm.
coming in, right? But it's an absolutely great way to experience what I think of as really a taste of hypnosis, a sense of kind of feeling good and relaxing, and what is my voice like, and how do I approach things. What it doesn't give you is really what work, either in person or online, would be with me for a particular need state. Because when I work with my clients individually, I have a whole different set of responsive interactive tools that can really help somebody in a different way, as opposed to just feeling sort of relaxed and blissed out and ready to go to sleep.
Right. It is a nice way to meet you though for free and sort of just
It's a
get,
great way to meet me for free.
what's this like?
Um,
Do I like this?
yeah, all the details of Nourish and Flourish are on my website on the classes page. So you can see the date. It's not like always the same Friday. It changes around, which I think is kind of good. And then if you're always busy the first Friday, eventually it won't be on a first Friday kind of thing. But you can get the info there, and you can register in advance on Eventbrite.
Awesome. Yes. And I think I noticed just for our listeners, the next one is going to be July 11th,
Yes.
2025. So you can
Yes.
come register for that one now. And then also you can see your other programs that you're running right now, like SOS Stop Eating Sugar, which is also a class that I have taken in the past and genuinely enjoyed. I took it right before my mother's 80th birthday, which was Candyland theme, in which my sister and I had purchased a shockingly a three-figure excuse me, a four-figure number amount of candy.
Oh my
It
God.
it was ludicrous for the entire the party was like it was open to the entire retirement community, and yeah, it was like take your insulin before you come to the party. Anyway, the weekend before, I went ahead and prepared for that birthday party by taking SOS Stop Eating Sugar, and it was really good.
I bet it was helpful. So I offer SOS Stop Overeating Sugar a few times a year. I offer it live and in person in Pleasant Hill, California at the adult school, and then I offer it online that I sell tickets to, and usually in like January, May, and maybe October or something like that. September, October.
Like the
Um,
Thanksgiving-ish arena, you're getting ready for the
oh
holiday.
no, it's kind of fall. I think of it
Yeah.
as early fall. And then I have another class that I offer every year, like the week of Thanksgiving-ish, called Boost Your Mood, Not Your Food, which
Mm,
is really for the holidays to kind of get everybody feeling happy because when you're happy, you are more in control of things. And, typically most of us are in a lot of heavy food environments
mhm.
in that 4 or 5 week period, and so having a little extra boost of feeling confident to just say no to the
I'm just over
to-
here quietly laughing because the words heavy food environments, it's like, oh yeah, it's like every holiday party is like stuffed within this certain period of time. I usually just go into a fugue state, and it's
yeah,
like,
well, everybody's got to kind of figure it out. Do you want to go to the party or not? If you go to the party, how and honestly, going to a party is probably not the problem. The problem is that you've been invited to a party on Monday night and Wednesday night and Friday night and Saturday night and Sunday.
mhm.
And how are you going to navigate that, right?
Right. And the more tired you get, also the more you eat. Did you ever notice that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, it comes from you might know this. You said you were sober earlier, but one
Mhm.
of the takeaways that I've pulled into my teaching comes out of AA, which is a little model for making good decisions. Do you know the HALT model for making good decisions?
No, please share.
Okay, the HALT model for making good decisions. So it's time to make a decision, which could be having a drink or eating, right? These are decisions, right? A decision is an allocation of resources, including your caloric intake or your body. Um, so the HALT method is do not make a decision if any of these four things are true.
Okay.
H, you are hungry.
Okay.
A, you are angry.
Okay.
L, you are lonely.
Okay.
T, you are tired.
All of that makes a lot of sense
Mhm,
to me. Yep.
mhm.
I'm gonna write this down.
The HALT decision framework
Yeah.
or something like that. Yeah.
That is quite wise. There's a lot of wisdom there. Yeah, and I guess as the more you do that, that would just become ingrained. Like, up, let me take care of my blood sugar before I go on my decision, before I respond to that
Well,
email.
yeah. I mean, the first example when I teach that is always like when you go to the grocery store, go when you're hungry or not. We know what the results are.
And everybody's had that experience, full stop. Like always. Yeah, you always spend 25% more or more at the grocery and you come away with a lot more pop
And you
chips
come
and other
away with a lot of
snacks.
junk food,
Yeah,
typically.
definitely.
You walk out of there with things you might never buy.
Yes. Yeah. So, Michelle, just being mindful of the time, I'd love for you to share with us how we can learn more about the Magnetic Marketing Collective that I'm involved in, because I believe in what you're teaching so much that I requested that you come on and share it with my listeners because it's fun to have more people in there because we have an energy as a group
Yes.
and are learning from one another. Like there's things happening with the other, it's like popcorn in there, and people are asking questions and sharing things in which I'm like, oh, I hadn't thought of that. So the more the merrier.
Mhm.
And then also just to take part in this wisdom. And I know a lot of us are becoming solopreneurs at this point or starting businesses. And there's a lot of really good basics that you are laying the groundwork for with us at this time that I mean, I just had never thought about. So, how can we learn more about that?
Absolutely. So, one of the best ways to learn about me and the marketing side of me is to come to one of my marketing webinars. Just like I host Nourish and Flourish for free every month, I also host a marketing webinar every month. And it's a short session, not always over lunch. The marketing webinars I've been hosting at different times of day, but they are meant to inform and empower the people who come with some good ideas about how they can improve upon their marketing, primarily digital marketing. But as we talked earlier, the community is not restricted to just digital marketing. So that session is, you can find it on the classes page of my website. You can find it on my Eventbrite page and sign up and come. And I will give you a little bit of great knowledge and some good go to do your homework kind of tips, as well as talk about where things are at with the Magnetic Marketing Collective and answer questions. So it's a good way to learn more about that. And
Fantastic.
you can also just book a call with me and we can talk about it. I'm happy to do it that way too. But everybody has to kind of find their rhythm.
And we will put a link in the show notes for your website, but just what is it, just to share it?
My website is www.michellewalters.net. MICHELLEWALTERS.net.
And where can we find your podcast, Mind Power Meets Mystic?
Mind Power Meets Mystic is on all the major podcast systems. It's on Spotify, it's on Apple, it's on the other ones too. Just search for Mind Power Meets Mystic for 4 words.
And this is a very fun podcast. I am a listener. Now, you have a lot of episodes, so I have actually not listened to all of them, but this is a weekly podcast and it does come up on my catcher and I listen through. But it is good stuff. There's always really nice interviews. And right now, Michelle and Cynthia Varka-Visser, her co-host, are actually involved in doing the chakra system. So all summer long, there's these really interesting interviews with folks that are sharing their soulpreneur work through what chakra they're using. And they're currently, gosh, I think I've listened to at least 3 of them now that are in the root chakra.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, we just wrapped up Root Chakra. There were
okay.
4 episodes of Root Chakra. We're now doing a recording for the second chakra. And those will start in a few weeks, and then we'll just work our way through. It's been really fun.
It's fun as a
Cynthia's a,
listener. I'm into it.
Cynthia's a little bit more knowledgeable about the chakras than me, but I was the one with the brilliant idea that we should do this. So we make good partners that way.
Yes. And then Cynthia, I have not talked about on the podcast before, but what I would share is Cynthia Varkavisser is actually my initial person on the soul path of waking up as an intuitive medium myself was just meeting her back in the day. She was the one that turned me on to meditation and got me going in this
Yeah,
direction.
she's a magical force.
She's an
Yeah.
activator, like the wind up, whatever the key was that was hiding on the back of Frida. She came into my life and went and go.
Beautiful, Frida.
It's very cute. Michelle, thank you so, so much for joining us. And yeah, it's just an honor. And guys, I
Thank
would
you.
love to see you in the Magnetic Marketing Collective for sure. Like that is just something that would make me really happy also.
Thank you, Frida. I appreciate this opportunity. It's been fun.
Thank you. So just as we wrap up here, as we do, so I love you.
I love you.
Thank you. God, Universe, Source loves you, and I hope you have a wonderful day.